Hi everybody, welcome to today's pre-recorded webinar on understanding and supporting behaviour that challenges. My name's Angela Lenton and I'm one of the Early Years Advisory teachers. To support this webinar, we have a number of other documents and webinars that may also be of benefit for you. We have a guidance document which is about understanding behaviour and supporting behaviour. We also have a pre-recorded webinar done by Magic Behaviour Management. Please access these documents and this webinar on the hub. The intention of today's webinar is to think about and talk about behaviours that challenge which you may have come across. We're also going to explore the reasons and triggers for certain behaviours and gain some practical tools and strategies for managing and responding to behaviour positively. So to get us thinking, I'd like to pose this question to you. Is it challenging behaviour or behaviour that challenges? Pause the webinar for a moment and just have a think. This is a very interesting question and there really is no wrong or right answer. Children are not naughty in themselves. Children do have behaviour that's unacceptable or undesirable, but many experts are of the opinion that if you use the word naughty, it puts the child in a really different frame set. I attended a training recently where a setting said that they've completely shifted their use of language with regard to behaviour. They now use the term distressed behaviour, as the child will be experiencing some sort of distress, hence the behaviour being shown. Using the term challenging behaviour puts the onus on the child, who is simply communicating their needs or feelings through their behaviour, which challenges the way that an adult responds. The term challenging behaviour was introduced to replace a variety of terms which suggested that the problem was located within the person. The term challenging behaviour was introduced to move away from this by describing the behaviour as challenging to the service or to the person. So this behaviour, it presents the person dealing with it in a challenge in how to support the child, as opposed to the person with the behaviour that's being difficult. The emphasis on this was to encourage carers and professionals to find effective ways of understanding a person's behaviour and its underlying causes. Behaviour that challenges is a way to communicate unmet needs when an individual struggles to communicate their needs in any other way, such as feeling anxiety, neglect, abuse, and/or having learning disabilities. Behaviour that challenges is when you're noticing the behaviour, not the child, and you're trying to overcome that challenge through solutions. Through the course of this training, I'll be using the term behaviour that challenges to move away from the thought that the behaviour being exhibited is due to a problem located within the child displaying this behaviour that challenges us as adults. So what exactly is behaviour? Children's behaviour is their voice. All of our actions are driven by feelings, and a child's behaviour is their way of letting you know how they are feeling and what their needs are. If you can understand a child's behaviour, you will be well on the way to working out a response that will promote the positive behaviour you would like to see. We need to be thinking of two things with regards to managing behaviour, and that is, do we really understand what children's behaviour means? Is our teaching and learning interesting to them? Children often display behaviour that challenges when their emotional needs are not being met. The behaviour is like saying, I have a need and no one is meeting that need. For example, if a child cannot follow an instruction, why can they not follow the instruction? Are they too young to understand the instruction? Are they bored, tired or hungry, or are there any other factors going on? Young children are not always able to tell us how they feel, and they often communicate their feelings through their behaviour. However, many adults sometimes struggle to understand the child's behaviour, and this can end up resulting in temper tantrums with the child. But what does behaviour really mean? So what does behaviour that challenges really mean? Behaviour that challenges is any behaviour that a child displays that is a challenge for others to manage and/or puts the child or others at risk. There are lots of different types of behaviour that challenge, and behaviours that one person finds challenging, another person may not. Some behaviours that we may find challenge include defiance, so ignoring or refusing to follow our requests, fussiness, so a refusal to eat certain foods or wear certain clothes. Somebody might be hurting other people by kicking or biting. There might also be excessive anger when a child doesn't get their own way. But why does this behaviour that challenge happen? There is no simple answer to this, and it may also be linked to a child's developmental stage. We also need to bear in mind that every child is different. Generally, behaviour that challenges is a means of communication and control, and it could also have a possible health-related cause. So what can be done to reduce this behaviour that challenges? We need to ensure that the individual's needs are met. We need to help them develop their communication skills and understand the purpose of the behaviour. We need to look at what us as adults can change. As I said, don't expect change to be easy. We've all experienced behaviour that challenges, whether it's with your own child or children, or with the children that you care for. I want you to just take some time to think of a time when you've been faced with behaviour that challenged you. What happened? What did you do? What strategies did you use? And what would you do differently? Pause the webinar now and just make a few notes on a situation where there was behaviour that challenged you, answering the questions that I've just said. Sometimes snatching can be a real behaviour that challenges. When we're thinking about children that are snatching, one thing that you could try is having a happiness box. And this box could be any type of box. It could be a shoe box, any type of box that you've got. And this box needs to be individual to the child, and you can create it together. Inside the box, put special items to the child. If a child's really interested in dinosaurs, put a dinosaur in the box. If they've got a real interest in wind-up toys, put a wind-up toy in the box. When the child starts to feel that their behaviour is not being listened to, or that they feel that they're in a difficult situation, you can give that box to that child and have just some time with that child. Also, we need to bear in mind that snatching is age appropriate. You can turn snatching into turn-taking games, or you can turn that into blowing bubbles and popping by taking turns and diverting the attention. You can also give small roles of responsibility so that a child has some sort of control if they're snatching. So this could be at snack time. Could they have the responsibility for passing around the plate of toast or the plate of food for other children to be able to take? That child will then have an element of responsibility. We need to make sure we're using lots of specific positive praise as well. Try to be a bit of a detective. Try to divert attention before any incidents occur. And also think about the activities you're providing. Do you have enough resources? Do you have multiple toys so a larger group of children can use the resources that you've provided? Do you have Play-Doh so it's a tactile resource that children can squeeze, and if they're feeling angry they can sometimes squeeze out that anger? Try to divert the attention of, as I've said, preempt what's going on. We're going to take some time now to think about 2-year-olds and their behaviour. Why does this behaviour happen? So very young children often display behaviour that challenges at around 2 years old. They know what they want, but they don't always have the language or social skills to get their wants or needs met. They can't say what they want, and so they continue with the terrible twos until they develop the skills needed to communicate in a more socially acceptable way. Children with a severe learning disability are also typically either unable to talk or may have very limited verbal communication skills. As they cannot express their needs verbally, they must use other ways to get their needs and wants understood and met, and so behaviour that challenges may continue. The needs that the person wants to have met are reasonable. Sometimes it might be wanting a drink or wanting to stop an activity that they don't like. It is simply their way of them communicating these needs that challenges us as adults. So we're going to think now about triggers of behaviour and how to spot them. So behaviour that challenges, as we said, is often due to a child not yet having the social and emotional skills they need to behave in a way that you would like them to. When children exhibit behaviour that challenges, there is always a trigger point for the behaviour. Finding out the trigger can really involve you becoming a master detective and stepping back to observe and reflect. All behaviour happens for a reason, and understanding why someone might display behaviour that challenges is vital. You need to write down everything that happened in the minutes immediately before the behaviour that challenged you occurred. To do this, you'll need to consider the following questions. Who was around when the behaviour occurred? What activities or events were in process directly before the behaviour? What are others in the room doing directly before the behaviour? What's the environment like? Is it too bright? Is it really loud? Are there certain smells that may be affecting the child? Where does the behaviour usually occur? Is it when the child's outside or when they're inside at the small world area? And when does the behaviour happen? Is it just after lunchtime or just before going home time when the child's tired? Make sure that your notes are clear and actionable, including enough details for you to work it back over time and isolate clues that might tell you what's led to the problem. There are a number of other things that may also affect a child's ability to control their reactions, emotions, or behaviour, and this includes being unwell, not having enough sleep or being tired, having a poor diet or feeling hungry or thirsty, a change in family circumstances or routine, a change of environment, maybe starting a new school or moving from the toddler room up to the preschool room, being bored or not being engaged or spoken to or involved in the activities that are going on around them. There are lots of things going on for children, and we really need to step back and observe and take note of what's happening that might be causing this behaviour that challenges us. We're now going to take some time to think about the different stages of behaviour. Behaviour that challenges can happen very quickly or with signals that can be really tricky to spot. But as we've said, it's very unlikely to come out of the blue. Behaviour develops in stages, and the arousal curve diagram below shows these stages. So we're going to think here, we're going to look at the green area, the proactive phase. So this is where a child is feeling mostly calm and relaxed and can engage positively with what's happening around them and in a real meaningful way. The aim is to try and support the child to stay in this phase as much as possible. It's important to think about what it is that is helping the child to feel calm and relaxed and to plan this into their day. The green phase is when the child is most able to learn useful skills to help them get what they want and need. We're now going to look at the amber phase here, the active phase. So the amber phase is where a child may be starting to feel anxious or distressed, and there's a chance that this may escalate their behaviour. So when the child is in the amber phase, we need to take swift action to support them to return to the green proactive phase as quickly as possible to prevent an escalation to the crisis phase. The amber arrow on the arousal curve diagram points in both directions, as you can see, because the child can go up or down. In the amber phase, we'll start to see early warning signs that a child is experiencing or expressing that they're anxious or that they're wanting something that they're unable to ask for verbally. This might be that they're not liking something or they're feeling bored, etc. These early warning signs provide the opportunity for us as adults to intervene before the behaviour escalates into full-blown incident of behaviour that challenges. And taking the time to spot these signs is essential. We're now going to look at the red phase, the reactive phase. So the red phase is where behaviour that challenges has occurred, and we need to do something quickly to achieve a safe and rapid control over the situation to prevent any unnecessary distress or injury. When a child is having a temper tantrum, their limbic system is fully activated and their frontal lobe isn't developed enough to help them think clearly about what has upset them. When a child's brain is flooded with emotions, we can't speak logically to them and expect logical answers. Saying, "What do you need? Why are you crying? Use your words and talk to me." The child can't answer our questions because they're too emotionally flooded to think logically. The best and easiest way to stop the tantrum is to connect with their emotional brain, because this is where their brain is currently functioning and engaged. To do this, we need to take a look at the situation and at the child. We need to figure out how they're feeling and reflect that back to them. So saying things like, "Wow, that made you so cross. Oh, I can see you're really sad about that. I can see that that's hurt your feelings. Oh, grr, you're so angry." It's really disappointing, isn't it, when things like that happen? Statements like these let the child know that you are paying attention and that you see they're upset. You're talking to them in a way that they can hear you. Sometimes you might just need to hold them. Bearing in mind, some children might not like to be touched, but we need to let them know that we're ready when they're ready to talk. We're now going to look at the final stage, which is the blue phase here, the post-reactive phase. This is where the child's starting to calm down, but we do still need to be very careful. So the final blue post-reactive phase is where the incident is over and the child is starting to recover and can become calm and relaxed again. As I said, we still need to be careful when we're in the blue phase, because as you can see by the arrow, there's a risk that the child may still go back up to red. When we're aware of identifying the different stages of behaviour, it can also help us to make sure that the child has what they need on a day-to-day basis. Being aware of the experiences they're having is going to really help us to support the behaviour that challenges. This quote is really important. I'm just going to read it aloud to you, and I just want you to think about the content of the words. You've got to help me. You've got to hold out your hand even when it's the last thing I seem to want or need. Each time you are kind and gentle and encouraging, each time you try to understand because you really care, my heart begins to grow wings. Very small wings, very feeble wings, but wings. And that's taken from Glad to Be Me by Don Perez Elkins. So now we're going to think about PSED and behaviour in learning. So personal, social and emotional development of the EYFS is considered so important that it's a prime area in the framework, and it underpins all future learning. We all know this, and we spend a great deal of time modelling and teaching behaviour. Most children do respond well and quickly adapt, but why is it that some children pick this up easily and others struggle? As we've already said, behaviour is communication, and when a child is behaving badly, they are simply expressing something that they haven't yet learned to communicate in a more appropriate way. This may be in line with their development. It may also be due to contextual factors, such as being asked to do something they don't want to do. In both cases, a child may have strong feelings which overwhelm them and cause them to have a tantrum and lash out. This is often perceived as being naughty or defiant, but it's neither. It is just a child expressing their frustration at the situation, possibly caused by their need to become self-reliant. If we really want to support children to develop socially acceptable behaviour in a variety of contexts, we must make sure that we spend the time and effort to understand their needs and the context of their world. We must teach them how to communicate well and express themselves according to their age and stage of development. For some children, this will require a much closer relationship with their parents and carers, so that there's a shared approach and a mutual understanding of how to develop the child's confidence and self-esteem. Seeking to understand rather than manage will ensure every child will develop the skills, confidence and resilience to manage everyday challenges that they face. You can read here what the EYFS states with regards to PSED. Take a moment to just pause this webinar and have a read through of it to refresh your memory. We're now going to have a look at the 6-step, bit of a mouthful, approach to solving problems and resolving conflicts. This is a really useful tool to help children work out conflict with another child. And if used often enough, children should start to work through the steps independently. So the first thing we need to do as the adult is approach the children calmly. We need to acknowledge all of their feelings, and we need to gather information from each child one by one. They need to have the opportunity to listen to each other. If the children are not able to verbalise what has happened, you could role model the language or to restate the child's problems. For example, I can see you're sad because you got hurt. We need to restate the children's problems that have occurred. We need to ask the children for solutions and choose one together. We then need to guide them to work out which solutions may or may not be useful so that they can make an informed choice. We also need to be prepared to give follow-up support to the children. It's really important when we're dealing with behaviour that challenges us that we separate the child from their behaviour. So for example, you're a really wonderful child, but I don't like that behaviour. That means the child still hears how wonderful they are and gets a sense that you really like them, but it's the behaviour that we don't like. Children have the right to feel safe in order to learn effectively. Self-image can affect the way children behave and how they interpret the way others treat them. It is part of young children's development to have tantrums and to test behaviour boundaries. We need to be there as adults to guide them through that and to help them learn and understand and to develop the socially acceptable skills. So now we're going to think about some positive behaviour strategies. When supporting and encouraging positive behaviour, it's important to engage with children in positive, stimulating and sensitive ways. We need to be aware that our body language and tone are important in communication. We all get frustrated at times, but it's really important not to show it. We need to catch children being good and give attention to the desirable behaviour. We need to use specific positive praise for the acceptable behaviour and label it. That was really kind, you just helped me carry the box. You can use proximal praise, where you praise a child either side of the child that you want to do something that isn't actually doing it. So if for example, you've got 3 children sitting down having a snack and one of them isn't doing that, praise the child sitting next to them who is sitting down and having their snack. The child who isn't following that behaviour will listen and will want to receive that praise and will tend to do just what you've asked them to do. We need to model acceptable behaviour towards children and adults by being calm and polite. We also need to explain why some behaviour is acceptable outside but not inside, so for example running or climbing or shouting. We need to tell children what we want them to hear and what we want them to do. They often only hear the very last word that you've said, so we can reinforce positive behaviour by using phrases which describe the desired behaviour. So for example, by saying stay on the path and not don't go on the grass, because they're just going to hear on the grass. We can say remember to walk and not don't run, because all they're going to hear is run and they'll run. If you've got a child that's climbing, tell them keep your feet on the floor, because the last thing they're going to hear is floor. If we say don't climb on the table, they're going to hear climb on the table. We also need to be aware of triggers for individual children, and sometimes you can use an ABC chart to help you with this. We need to acknowledge children's feelings. It may prevent children finding unacceptable ways to show their feelings. Help a child to reframe, so you can say, I can see you feel, whatever it is, because do. Match the intervention to the needs of the situation. So for example, attempt to divert or distract children at an earlier stage, or monitor the situation as children attempt to settle a dispute for themselves. Set clear boundaries and be consistent. This really is key. Everybody needs to be consistent with the boundaries that are set. Children have a need for the world to be as consistent and reliable as possible, as do we as adults. When we act consistently and reliably, we make children feel safer, less anxious, and more likely to act in a socially acceptable way. Share and discuss any issues with parents and carers regarding behaviour that's challenging you. Have high expectations of good behaviour and believe that every child is unique and capable. We need to nurture and cooperate and collaborate and have the building of relationships and promote this. We need to promote children to care for the environment, including living things and equipment and each other. We also need to create an environment where children feel able to express themselves and where adults and children are willing to listen to each other. Help children to work cooperatively and begin to negotiate and compromise. Help children to develop their self-confidence, self-awareness, and to make them feel good about themselves. And also help them to understand and accept limits and boundaries in order to enable them to make good choices about how they behave. We need to help children to develop self-control and to self-regulate their behaviour in order to express their feelings in ways that are not going to hurt others. You can see here some of the other strategies that you can use. So take a moment to pause the webinar and have a read through this slide. So we're now going to look at alternative positive behaviours that us as adults can teach. What a really top tip to use is to use the term thank you and not please. Please is a request, thank you is an expectation. If you do this enough, change will start to occur, but it's not going to be overnight and will need lots of practice. So really do try to change your use of language. When you're making requests of children, it's time to tidy up, thank you. Not, please could you put the toys away? Because you're asking them, you're making a request. When you're saying, tidy up the toys, thank you, that's the expectation that that's what you want them to do. Here we're going to have a look in this column at unwanted behaviour. And here, this part shows you new behaviours that you can teach. So if a child is throwing toys, and we all know that that happens daily, you can turn this into a game with putting toys away into a basket or box, or a thank you game. So every time they put something in the box, you say thank you. If a child is biting other children, you need to be playing alongside other children with adults, giving them adult support. You maybe need to provide biting toys, or using shaking hands, or using stroking as opposed to the bite. If children are running off and not following the rules, then engage them in an activity where an adult says, ready, steady, go, because they'll still get the opportunity to move, but then they know when they go. If a child is mouthing objects, then provide objects that are safe to be mouthed. Playing appropriately with objects with adult support and you modelling that will support this. As we've said about snatching, if a child is snatching, then provide sharing items, use turn-taking games, or using the term gentle hands. If a child is pinching themselves or others, then you can try introducing stroking or using Play-Doh or clay or pegs, because then they get that tactile opportunity to use their fingers in something appropriate. You're redirecting the behaviour to motivational activities. If a child is slapping their own face, then bring in clapping drums or having a drum. Drums are a fantastic way for children to be able to outlet any anger that they might be experiencing. If children aren't engaging, then use the opportunity for shared attention activities, motivational activities, or provide cause and effect toys. Supporting children with SEND and behaviour that challenges. So children with SEND may need further support in managing their behaviour. Sometimes the environment may be a trigger point. Think about, is the child clear about what is happening? Do they need to be given more clear visual timelines of what is happening? Are you using visual aids to support the child's communication and understanding? Think about the child's sensory needs. Is the environment too noisy? Is it too high-pitched? Is it too bright? What touch are they experiencing? Some children prefer deep pressure as opposed to light touch. Could the child be having difficulty expressing their frustration? Do they need help in labelling their emotions? And again, are you using visual aids to support this? Children sometimes won't be clear of what's happening, and we need to make it imperatively clear to them of what is happening and what's going to happen. So thinking about all of this and the real use of visual aids is going to support children and their behaviour that challenges. Children who bite. For many children, biting is a normal part of their development. Babies bite objects as a means of exploring the world. For those who are teething, biting into objects can really help to relieve the pain and discomfort. Biting is also a form of communication, particularly for those who have not developed the vocabulary they need to express strong feelings such as anger, frustration, or fear. Some children bite to gain attention. Others do it in self-defense if they feel threatened. It could also be an extension of their natural curiosity. What happens if I do this to someone? Or it may be a child having a need to satisfy a need for oral stimulation to self-regulate. The biting may help them relieve their anxiety or to cope with stressful situations. Biting is a common occurrence, and many children will pass through this particular stage of development. It's therefore really important to acknowledge this and have clear strategies to minimise incidents and ensure you can respond sensitively when biting does occur in order to reduce the stress for all involved as quickly as possible. When an incident does occur, it's important to identify the key reasons behind it. Does it happen at the same specific time of day? Are children arguing over a precious object such as a favoured toy? Or is the child seeking some form of oral stimulation? Is the child unable to verbalise their feelings? Gather as much information about each incident as you can to plan which strategies need to be implemented to further reduce incidents. So this could be, for example, sitting next to a child at the lunch table, or for a child that's seeking oral stimulation, providing crunchy snacks like breadsticks that are really nice to chew on, or appropriate chew toys so that they can provide the stimulation the child needs. Also think about if you've broached the subject with parents, and if you haven't, why not? It's natural for parents of both the biter and the child who has been bitten to be upset, so you must acknowledge their feelings. Explain that biting is a form of communication, and even though it is distressing, it's a stage of development that many children pass through. Find out if there's been any incidents of biting outside of the setting, and if there have been any changes that may be affecting the biter. Share the strategies that you've used so that the parents can also do this at home, and that you've got consistency between yourselves and the setting. Also think about, you cannot promise to eradicate biting completely. It's just not going to be possible. But reassure parents that you have effective strategies in place to reduce the number of incidents. Other strategies for biting is to distract the child with a toy or book, or suggest looking out of the window or taking a walk to another room or outside. The goal is to reduce the tension and shift the child's attention before they bite. When you shift their focus and energy to the child who was bitten, you are clearly communicating that biting does not result in more attention, so always go to the person who's been bitten first. Suggest how the child might handle the situation that's triggering the need to bite. For example, "Marcus, you can tell Anna, you're a little bit too close to me. I don't like it when you touch my hair." If you think the child might be biting due to the need of oral stimulation, as I said, offer them something safe that they can bite or chew. Also suggest ways to share. Take out a kitchen timer to give children a visual reminder of how long they can play with each particular toy or bike. If you're in a group setting, you may want to make sure that the classroom has more than one of the most popular toys. Sharing is one of the most common triggers for biting. Also, reading books about biting can also help. As you read, ask your children how the different characters might be feeling. If you have an older toddler, you can ask him to read the book to you by telling you what's happening based on the pictures. This will all help with children who are biting. Working in partnership with parents and carers. Working collaboratively with parents and carers and helping them to support their child will result in improved educational outcomes for children. Improved communication between the setting and parents carers, and improved relationships between parents and children. Consistency between home and setting. Children will know what to expect with regards to behaviour, boundaries, expectations, etc. You can agree methods to manage children's behaviour with parents and carers before the placement starts. So wherever possible, try to meet parents' requests for the care of their children according to their values and practices. When children start with you, you should set out your expectations of the setting, maybe refer them to your behaviour management policy. Also, inform parents carers that you expect them to inform you of any changes in the child's home circumstances or care arrangements, or any other changes which may affect the child's behaviour when they're with you. This could be separation, or a new baby, a new partner, or bereavement. All information shared with you should be kept confidential unless there obviously is a child protection issue. Working together with parents makes sure that you've got consistency for the children that you're caring for and educating. A consistent approach benefits the child's welfare and helps ensure that the child is not confused. So you could offer regular review meetings with parents and carers to discuss children's care and any issues or concerns, preferably when the child isn't present. As we're approaching the end of this webinar, I really wanted to share this beautiful quote with you. I just want you to take a moment to listen to the words as I read it through to you. Children's hearts are won through relationships, not rules. You don't have to force children to follow you if you inspire them as you lead. For us as early years educators, we are privileged and have such a fantastic opportunity to be able to guide these young children as they move through life and learn lots of new things around us. And for us, it's such an important job to be able to manage the behaviour that challenges us and to be able to guide children to learn new skills so that the behaviour that they exhibit is socially acceptable. Working with children, young children, is a particularly rewarding job, but working with children with exhibiting behaviour that challenges can be absolutely exhausting and draining. It's really important that you learn to love yourself and take care of your own self-care. Dealing with behaviour that challenges is really difficult. You must be kind with yourself. Think of that good old analogy of doing up your own life jacket and looking after your own mental well-being. That really is key. Children will pick up on all of your stress, and it's up to us to be positive role models for these children, to help them understand what behaviour is acceptable and to provide them with the tools, strategies and guidance to be able to deal with their own behaviour. This webinar forms part of the support package that Waltham Forest Early Years team have developed to support practitioners working in the early years sector. Please do visit the Hub for further webinars, guidance documents, including the SEND Passport, where you'll find a range of different training materials to support you in meeting the needs of children that you're working with. Thank you for watching this webinar. I really do hope you found it useful. Please do contact us if you've got any feedback or if you'd like any other training that we may not have considered. Please do contact us on the email below. Thank you.